Let us close the eyes for a moment, remembering God and the Masters. We will pray. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us all. May God nourish us with wisdom and knowledge. May there be more love, peace, and harmony within and everywhere. May there be no discord among us. Om. Amen. I humbly bow to one formless God. I bow to all the saints and sages of all times and places. I bow to Sage Patanjali, Sage Vyasa, and all the Kriya Yoga masters. And I bow to you all. Good afternoon and good evening. Welcome back to our monthly classes on Yoga Sutra. Last class we started our discussion on third book, which is called Vibhuti Pada, the book about the yogic attainments. We discussed 5 verses, 5 sutras from that. This chapter is called Vibhuti, and the etymological meaning of this word Vibhuti is yogic attainment. This word is derived from Sanskrit root verb vi and bhu, which means to arise, to develop, to manifest. It indicates a special form of power or existence. Another meaning of Vibhuti is sacred or holy ash. If you go to India, you'll find that Vibhuti is a sacred ash used in rituals which symbolizes purity and transient nature of life. Even when we perform fire ceremony, so at the end we take that holy ash from the pit and put it on our forehead to remember the impermanence of this worldly life or our body even. It is believed that to invoke divine blessings and to often feel purity, we put this holy ash. I remember a joke with this word holy ash. There was one Western disciple. He went to India and he was visiting the holy city of Kashi, or you can say Banaras. And in Banaras, if you go on the bank of Ganga, there's continuous cremation at one particular place called Manikarnika Ghat. It is ancient city of Lord Shiva. So this continuous cremation taking place there, and people considered this city and this place very auspicious. If someone leaves the body, will attain liberation. This is a belief. So this Western disciple, he was walking on this bank of Ganga in Banaras, and when he reached there, he found a teenager boy was selling some holy ash. So he asked, what is this? He said, this little boy told that this is the holy ash we put on the forehead for purity, and it is very auspicious considered here. Even we offer that Vibhuti to Lord Shiva. So this Western disciple looked at this packet and he said that, but there is no expiry date on this. And this little boy said, sir, this holy ash is prepared or collected from the expired bodies. So it has no expiry. However, we are discussing Vibhuti. So let us continue our discussion. And and today we'll cover some more sutras. So today we'll discuss about the different vibhutis, or you can say different yogic attainments. So in the Sutra 16 of Vibhuti Pada, Sage Patanjali is now explaining about the different yogic powers. Parinama Traya Sanyamat Atita Anagata Jnanam. By performing Sanyama over three modifications, they are known as Nirodha, Samadhi and Ekagrata. Means restraint of mind, then Samadhi state and concentration. One gets the knowledge of past and future. In our previous sutra or previous class, we discussed what is Sanyama. Sanyama means three together, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. Concentration, meditation and then absorption. These three together is the practice of Sanyama. So when a person performs Sanyama on any object, so there are different yogic powers one can get. So it says Parinamatraya Sanyamat Atita Anagata Jnanam. And what is the meaning? Through Sanyama or self-discipline on these three modifications, Nirodha, Samadhi, Ekagrata, one gains the knowledge of past and future. So in this sutra, Sage Patanjali is explaining about the Vibhuti or the yogic powers attained through practice of self-discipline. In the discussion of Vibhuti or yogic powers, naturally this question comes to mind that why such yogic powers exist, as they sometimes act as an obstacle on the path. Vibhuti or yogic powers serve several purposes. First, they give guidance on the path, suggesting what is to be followed and what should be avoided. Second thing, these yogic powers become a means of cultivating para vairagya, means supreme renunciation, or you can say the supreme detachment on the path of dynamic renunciation. Third is, they serve as a reminder that one should not stop upon developing such powers, but continue to strive for ultimate goal of self-realization. Those who try to live a life of fulfilling desires and attaining worldly glories find these vibhutis very attractive. But for the sincere yogis, these vibhutis are also a means through which one may experience more love for the divine. People in this world are curious and they want to know about the past and future. They go to astrologers worried about many things. Worries for the future and lamentations of the past are distractions in life, because they spoil one's peace, love, contentment, and balance at present. So Sage Patanjali is saying that the practice of Sanyama on three modifications of Dharma, Lakshana, and Avastha bestows the seekers with knowledge of past and future. It gives the information about the past happenings of this life as well as of previous lives and of the future. Such vibhuti or yogic powers can be understood in a spiritual manner. In the memory of the past and in the hope or expectation of future, a seeker experiences the grace of the divine. Even for a true seeker, there is no past or no future. He or she has given up the memory of the past and the expectation of future lives. And that person, as a yogi or seeker, lives in present moment with love and grace of divine. So yogic powers we do get when we practice yoga, especially Kriya yoga. On the road after long practice, one may experience some vibhutis, some yogic powers. And also for a yogi, it is easy to know the past and the future. Although these vibhutis are obstacle, which we will discuss in the further sutras. So atita jnanam, anagata jnanam. In the next sutra, which is 13, Sage Patanjali is talking about the knowledge of past life. Samskara sakshat karanat purva jati jnanam. By keen observation of the impressions, one can have the knowledge of the earlier life. Very often we have read the stories of Gautam Buddha, that he had knowledge of his past lives, many past lives. And many people are interested to know about their past lives. When Guruji is asked this question, he always tells that past is past. It's already gone. We cannot do much about that. So think about the future and especially the present moment. However, by a keen observation of the impressions, we call it samskara, one can get the knowledge of previous lives. So through the practice of nirodha means complete restraint of the thought patterns, one can observe clearly the impressions and as a result can know how humans and other beings are born and from which birth. One can have the knowledge of previous lives. This birth is because of the residual impressions of the previous birth. So in this sutra, the vibhuti related to the knowledge of past life is described. The sage is emphasizing that through careful inquiry into one's own samskara, one can gain the knowledge of the previous birth. So what is samskara or impression here? Samskara is a mask. It is in the form of smriti or memory or remembering and vipaka. We call samskara in the memory, whatever impressions we have, and vipaka means fruition of the result. Like which karma, which seed, like samskara, like a seed, is going to give fruit now. At what time it will give fruit? That is vipaka. Memory or impression is the seed from the misery or pleasure. So whatever we enjoy or we go through suffering, all these impressions are stored in our memory. And through its maturity, it comes into fruition and gives forth to the experience of birth, lifespan, enjoyment, pleasure, and pain, which is discussed as the prarabdha karma, like jati, ayu, and bhoga. So your birth, your lifespan, and your enjoyment overall in the life, they are all decided by these samskaras. So this is the past impressions lead to present life. So what we are reaping the fruits now, it is because of the past impressions. So our past impressions are actually manifesting in our present life, including this body. This body is a result of past actions. And all other experiences and present impressions arise from present karma. So we are having both. We are carrying the past impressions, they are manifesting, and also we have the present impression. So present karma we are creating present impression with our present activities, and that also become the cause of our future lifetime. So these present action plus our past actions or impressions, they give us experience of pleasure and pain in this life. They are also stored for the future because we don't get the result of all the actions in one lifetime. So we store them for future times. And such impressions leave a strong imprint in the mind, which cause not only the pleasure and pain, but also lead to the next life. Remember, there are two types of actions we can understand. Some actions we perform very often, so they leave a very strong impression in our mind or chitta. So those impressions, they become the main cause or main strand of our destiny in next life. And those who are weak impressions, day-to-day basis what we do, they become secondary karma. They also give result, but those secondary karma can easily be exhausted. But the main strand, they decide three things of our destiny, which is jati, ayu and bhoga. In which body we will be born, how long we will live, and overall lifespan, whether it will be pleasant or unpleasant life. So this is main strand. However, our past impressions do affect us to great extent. And here we can see that impressions and our life, how it is decided. So we have seed, which are known as samskara. Now this seed we are carrying from the past, and we are also creating now with our present action. So the past samskaras or impressions can be both. It can be virtuous, it can be wise. Both lead to knowledge of past life. So through the yogic practice, through Kriya practice, a yogi, when purifies the mind and gets sanyama, and then contemplating or looking or observing at the past impressions, one can know the past lives. Similarly, the samskaras or impressions in present life, they can be both. It can lead to virtuous deeds or wise. So they also become the cause of future lifetime. So looking at the samskaras or impressions at present, what type of thoughts, what type of impressions we are getting again and again, which are coming on the surface of mind, one can have the knowledge of future life, that where we are heading to. However, this is past and future. So through the practice of sanyama and through direct perception of the impression, one can get the knowledge of earlier life, and it is known as purva jati jnana, means knowledge of the past. There are people who can tell exactly where they were born before, in which family, which place even, because they are still carrying those impressions from the past lives. However, this is just to discuss, but we should not be too much interested in our past because we cannot do anything about that. Now, in the next sutra, there is another yogic power mentioned by sage Patanjali, which is known as the reading of mind of other people. So let's see what your sage Patanjali is telling. In the sutra number 38. Let me see before that. Yes, sutra number 19 we'll discuss first about the knowledge of mind of others. A lot of people are interested in this siddhi also, or yogic power. They want to know what others are thinking about them. So in this sutra, Sage Patanjali is talking about pratyayasya parachitta jnanam. Pratyayasya parachitta jnanam. Para means others. Chitta is the mind, knowledge of others' mind. So by practicing sanyama on the thought, one gets knowledge of another's mind. But knowing others' thought will not lead to liberation. So when one practices sanyama, dharana, dhyana and samadhi together on the thoughts process. So by observing thought and then having discipline or that perfect control, one can get the knowledge of another's mind also. So when we look at our own thought and do sanyama on our thought process or others' thought process, one can see the mind of others or clearly read it. This is not a big deal actually. There are many people who have this siddhi. Even those who do little bit of yogic practice, they can achieve it. However, by practicing sanyam on the thought, one gets the knowledge of another's mind. But remember, reading others' mind or knowing the thought of other people is not going to give us liberation. It is just knowing the thoughts. However, human beings by nature are curious to know the thoughts of others, feelings, attitude, nature, or reaction of other people. Ordinarily, from the facial appearances or by color, by the eyes, movement, or mannerism, one can get some idea of another person's mind. But here, sage gives a practical method. If you know yourself, you can know others. If you understand your mind, you can understand others' mind as well. Problem is that we don't have control over our own mind. We don't know how our mind works, or it is keeping us in confusion. So unless we understand and control our own mind, we cannot think of reading others' mind. So when one consciously watches oneself while talking to others, then one's own chitta, mind and memory will be clean and crystal-like. So constantly we have to watch ourselves, what we are talking, what type of thoughts, what type of feelings we are having. So when we are very conscious, then only we will be more clean in our mind. So when our mind is pure, it reflects what comes closer to us. Looking at one's own mind, thought, intellect, and even perception, which is known as pratyaya. In this sutra, this word comes pratyaya. Pratyaya means content of the mind. So what is the content of the mind? Our thought, our intellect, our perceptions. So when we look at our own content of the mind, we will develop love and understanding. And in such a state, one can know other better. So says Patanjali is saying that through the practice of sanyama on one's own understanding and knowledge, one gains knowledge of others' thoughts, emotions, minds, and intellects. Parachitta ordinarily means chitta of others. But para, the another meaning of para, you can say Supreme Lord or Parameshwara. So here parachitta means also the cosmic mind or the mind of the Lord. So when we have our mind purified, when we look at our own thought and do sanyama on that, we can connect ourselves with the cosmic mind. So through cleaning one's own mind, one will have the knowledge of cosmic mind or the mind of the Divine Mother. Divine Mother, because this entire universe is the form of Mother, Divine Mother. In this state, a person will be free from happiness, unhappiness, honor, and dishonor. A yogi will not be disturbed at all when he has this power of reading the mind of God. So here we are not interested in parachitta pratyasya parachitta jnanam. Parachitta, here we are interested in connecting our mind with the mind of Lord, or you can say cosmic mind. Then in the further sutras, there are different yogic powers mentioned. So I'll not go through all those because it's too elaborate. I'll just give a gist of that. So from Sutra number 21 through 37, there are various yogic powers mentioned. It says by practicing sanyama on the body form, suspending the receptive power and blocking the contact between the eye of the observer and the light from the body, there is invisibility. So a person can become invisible to others by practicing sanyam on the body form. Karma is of two types, active karma and slow karma. By performing sanyama on these two, slow and active karma, knowledge of time and death or other omens is gained. Then it sage is telling, by practicing sanyama on friendliness, one gains strength. By practicing sanyama on strength or powers, one gets the strength of an elephant and other powers. Then further it says, the mind has an ability of super sensual comprehension. Through practicing sanyama on this condition of the mind, which has been described through pranayama, one can know subtle things, hidden objects, or distant matter. So when one is doing sanyama on supersensual perception, then one can get the knowledge of hidden objects or distant matters. By practicing sanyama on sun, one gains knowledge of the universe. Whereas by practicing sanyama on the moon, brings the knowledge of the system of stars. Practicing sanyama on Dhruva, the pole star, one gets the knowledge of movement of the stars. By practicing sanyama on the navel center, because we have 7 chakras, so by practicing sanyama on the navel center, there is knowledge of the system of the body. So entire anatomy, physiology, or whatever is happening, one can get the knowledge of that. By practicing sanyama on the hollow of the throat, that is throat center, there is freedom from hunger and thirst. If you remember in Autobiography of a Yogi, there is a description of one saint, lady saint, Giribala, who did not eat for many years or throughout the life. After some incident in childhood, she never ate. So how did she achieve this feat? Because of this yogic power. By practicing sanyama on the throat center, one becomes free from hunger and thirst. Then we have many nadis or nervous system. In the nervous system, there are some important nerve channels. So through the practice of sanyama on kurma nadi, mind is stilled. By practicing concentration on the light inside the head, which one gets the vision of the perfected beings. You might have read in the books or teachings of Sri Lahiri Mahasaya, when he has written that I saw today Lord Krishna, in my vision I saw Mother Kali, I saw this. So this is because of when one is doing sanyama on the light inside the head, which we see in the Jyoti Mudra, one can get the vision of Siddha, perfected beings, or different deities even. By practicing sanyama on intuitive knowledge or mental brilliance, omniscience is attained. So if a person is doing sanyama on intuitive knowledge, then one can know everything in the world, whatever is happening anywhere. Then in next sutra it says, by practicing sanyama in the heart, one gets knowledge of mind and memory. Knowledge of Purusha comes through practice of sanyama on the nature of the self, distinct from others. So if one wants to get the vision of God, or one wants to attain self-realization, then one has to do sanyam on the self, on the soul. When one is perfected in practicing sanyama on swartha, swartha is called self-interest, one gets intuitional knowledge that is subtle, distant, different, past and future knowledge, and also permanent experience of divine sound, touch, vision, taste, etc. However, these are many different yogic powers which we are not interested in. In the next sutra, we'll discuss about the Parachitta Jnanam. Now we'll discuss about the obstacles. Whatever we discuss, these are just some experiences, supernatural powers, but they are obstacles. So Sage Patanjali is cautioning us. He's telling clearly in Sutra number 38, Te samadho upasarga vyuthane siddhaya. These yogic powers or supernatural powers are obstacles on the path of realization. And such supernatural powers are worldly in nature. Remember, before we reach the state of self-realization, there is always some test. So these siddhis, they come as a test. Do we want to stop and use these siddhis or yogic powers and not move forward, or we want to ignore them and move forward for our highest goal of self-realization? So this is a big test. And 99.99% when people attain any one of these siddhis or yogic powers, they stop moving forward in their practice, because these yogic powers, they are not the final experience. They are not the ultimate goal or ultimate experience. They are like obstacle. In another or simple way, I would say that in the Vedantic philosophy, we say Brahman, the God, the absolute, and Maya, the creative power of God, which is also illusion. So Maya has its own effect. Maya does not want you to rise above all its, limitation. Maya wants to pull you down. And these supernatural powers are under the Maya, you can say. So self-realization comes only when we are not tempted by these supernatural powers. I remember clearly one realized monk in Vrindavan, he is no more. He had told in one of his talks, he told that these siddhis, siddhi means yogic powers, you will attain easily, but once you attain it, you will have desire to use them. Suppose by little practice, you become very, efficient in knowing the mind of others, as we discussed. Whomever you look at, you can know the mind. It's not a big deal, because I have experienced that, but it is a trouble. So you can know the mind of others, thought of other people. And what will happen? Then you will get desire to know other people. Once you use this, any natural siddhi or power, you are creating a karma for future lifetime. So that's why they are obstacles. So it is good to ignore them. Now, Sage Patanjali is telling, these are obstacles on path of realization. All these foretold yogic powers, which I just gave a list to you, these are the result of practice, but they are obstacle in the way of samadhi. Otherwise, in daily life, they might be useful. The sage is clearly mentioning here in the sutra, the supernatural sensory perceptions are obstacle. They must be carefully avoided. Such beautiful sensation, experiences, and powers are seemingly pleasant and appear desirable. Not only that, but also they appear to be very encouraging and thus create a false sense of perception or perfection. Sometimes we get these powers and we feel that we have already achieved realization. But in fact, these are impediments on the path of enlightenment, because they distract and externalize our attention. If you remember in the Holy Bible, Gospel of Matthew in the 6th chapter, 13th passage, Jesus is cautioning. And in the prayer, Jesus is telling, "O God, lead us not into temptation." So here temptation is not the ordinary temptations in the day-to-day life, but also the siddhis or the yogic powers. It has been described in the Puranas and many scriptures that to create distraction in meditation, even the celestial create an atmosphere of sensual pleasure. I have heard many stories, even in Puranas, we have seen that a person who is meditating, and even Sage Vishwamitra, in the highest state of meditation, just about to reach the Nirvikal Samadhi, and a celestial dancer appears, and he got infatuated and then left his meditation, then became a householder for a long time. So we should be careful. Because of disharmony and impurity of mind, a person considers anything as good or bad. It is not the nature of the objects, but it is the nature of mind to classify. The more the mind is attached towards any object, the more is its value for that person. If you can observe it, that if you give too much attraction to some object or some person, that person becomes, or that object becomes more valuable for you. However great or valuable object may be, it has no value for a sincere seeker, because anything in this world is transitory. So Sage Patanjali is saying that these supernatural attainments or make a person extroverted or turn outward. But to attain the yogic power, self-realization, we have to go inward. So leave everything outside. Even these so-called siddhis do not really help us, but they come as a temptation. Now, in the next sutra, we'll come to sutra number 46. In Sutra 46, there is mention of 8 yogic powers, which I'll discuss a little bit more. Sage is telling, Tatah animadi, Tatah anima adi, pradurbhava kaya sampat, tat dharma anabhigata cha. Then is the attainment of anima and other powers, and also the perfection of the body and non-resistance of their attributes. In previous sutras, Sage Patanjali has talked about the different yogic powers, which are like ordinary powers. But then there are some other yogic powers or siddhis, which are highly praised in some scriptures also. If you remember Lord Hanuman, about his prayer, it is said, Ashta Siddhi now Nidhi ke Data. Lord Hanuman had 8 siddhis. These 8 siddhis are mentioned here, Anima Adi. So Adi means etc. What is Anima Adi? These are highest yogic attainments. So I'll just give the name first and then we'll discuss a little bit more. Anima is the first one, yogic siddhi. Remember, when we avoid all the smaller siddhis, then these big siddhis, big yogic attainments, one can get. About the yogic attainments or siddhis, some are permanent, some are impermanent. So what we discussed before, they were impermanent. If you use them, you will lose them at some point. But these 8 yogic powers are attained almost before reaching samadhi. These remain permanent with the yogi. So anima, number 1. Anima means to become as tiny as an atom. One can just become just like an atom. Second is called mahima, to become huge. And if you remember in Ramayana, Lord Hanuman had demonstrated all these different powers. Garima means to become very heavy. Laghima, to become very light. Prapti, to reach anywhere in the world. Prakamya means to get whatever is desired or required. Then seventh is called Vashitva, to bring under one's control. Means whomever you want will become favorable to you. Ishitva means lordship or authority over others. You can win over others just by look, or by your thought. So these are 8 higher yogic attainments. Let's discuss a little bit more about these. So later, the manifestation of these 8-fold glories come to yogi's life. And what are those? From mastery over the elements. So how it happens? In the 5 lower chakras, we have 5 great elements. So when one gets the perfect control over the elements and doing sanyama and overcoming them, one becomes free from these 5 elements, the influence of 5 great elements. Then one can get these higher siddhis. As long as mind and intellect are not purified, one cannot have mastery over the elements. So one is free from the spell of strong likes and dislikes. Then the mind and intellect will become pure. It happens with the grace of Guru Preceptor. So naturally, one can get these siddhis also. The perfection of the body is elaborated in the next sutra. Here we'll elaborate more about these 8 siddhis. So first is called anima. Anima means to become small like an atom. By such siddhi, one can make himself or herself very small and invisible. Its spiritual meaning is very subtle too. Anu, anima has come from word anu. Anu means subtle. And it is also the state of non-perceptibility, like space. Anu is small, Anu is also vast. That is why in Bhagavad Gita there is a verse, Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanasmurud Sam Anusmaredyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. One who meditates on the seer will ultimately perceive the ancient, the ruler of all, the subtler than the subtle, and universal sustainer, who possesses a form beyond human conception and who is effulgent like sun and beyond the darkness of ignorance. The same expression we can find in Katha Upanishad, and the same mantra is also in Shvetashvatra Upanishad. From gross body, the sense organs are subtle. If you see gross elements and gross body, but the sense organs are subtler than the gross body. From the sense organ, the mind is more subtler, and from the mind, intellect is subtle, and from the intellect, soul is the subtle. The soul is the subtlest of all. This is the direct experience of the seeker. And such experience cannot come only by listening to scriptures. So anima, to become very tiny. Then mahima, the second one is mahima. Mahima means physically one can make oneself bigger and bigger, which is also non-approachable. In Ramayana, you see that Lord Hanuman had the ability to make himself very small or very big. As space is great and accommodates everything, similarly, the soul or God is the greatest. Then third power is garima, to become very heavy. In such attainment, one can assume such heaviness or weight in the body that nothing can shake him. But metaphorically and spiritually, it is a state when no occurrence, no matter how great, can shake or disturb a person. one becomes free from the dualities of life. Laghima means, the fourth one, Laghima, to become light. It is described in Sutra 43 also that one can assume the weightless state, just like cotton. If one observes creation, earth, water, fire, air, and space, because they are relatively lighter in sequence. If you see earth, water, fire, air, space, they become more subtler and more lighter. In the same order, the soul is beyond all measurement, and it is also freedom from ego and vanity. Then next is called prapti. Prapti means to reach anywhere. It is a yogic siddhi to be able to go anywhere. Spiritually, when one experiences the self and feels its presence within and without, means the soul within and the same consciousness pervades everywhere. This is the experience of yogi. Then one gets this siddhi. The feeling of absence or loss disappears for him, and one can go anywhere. And we have heard that Babaji Maharaj can manifest anytime, anywhere at will. He can integrate his body and disintegrates the molecules of his body. So this is the siddhi, which is called prapti, reach anywhere. And some people, they do astral travel. However, we are not talking much about that. Prakamya is the next yogic power, which means to get whatever is desired. This siddhi of prakamya allows a yogi to have the opportunity to fulfill wishes. But in reality, a sincere seeker attunes himself to God's will so that he may fulfill it. Not my will, but thy will becomes the lifestyle. You might have heard the stories of some yogis. They ask you, what do you want? You say that I want to eat apple, and they just wave the hand and they produce an apple. So this is prakamya. Whatever they desire, they can get it. Then next siddhi is called vashitva, to bring under one's control. With such a siddhi, one can bring nature under one's control. But spiritually, a person brings the mind, the senses, and even the chakras under control. That is what is vashitva, not over the people. And this is thorough discipline of oneself. Vashitva, if you remember, even in the Holy Bible, when Jesus rebuked the wind, there was a storm and Jesus rebuked the winds and then it stopped. Even in many yogis' life story or biography I have read, that when there was heavy rain, they just said stop and rain stops. How? Because of Vashitva, they have control over the nature, forces of nature even. Then last one is called Ishitva. Ishitva means lordship or authority over others. This is a mastery or authority. Ishitva. Ishitva means spiritually, it is a state of experiencing the power of God and being one with God. This is called Ishitva. Remember, we should be very careful on our path and our goal. Ordinary siddhis or supernatural powers are not the real achievement. These are obstacles, these are obstructions. So we should pray to God and we should become free from such weakness and temptations on our path. So these 8 yogic powers, they come to all the yogis. It is up to them whether they want to use it or not, but the ordinary powers they want to always avoid. I remember one incident I would like to share because we are discussing about these yogic powers. In central India, I have seen one yogi. He was not a formal monk, and those who have attended the centenary celebration closing ceremony in Cuttack closing ceremony of centenary of our Guru Shri Gurudev Baba Hariharananji. During that time, this monk also visited, and he was on the dais. If you remember, his name is Balak Bhagwan. Balak means child, and Bhagwan means God. So he behaved just like a child. And his only possession was a red shorts, small shorts, and his upper body was bare, but he was wearing lots of rosaries of Rudraksha and some other gems like that. And he used to carry one small cloth bag in which probably he had one water pot and some puja, some statue of his own personal deity, and maybe just one small cloth. That was all his possession. His sadhana was, he was initiated by some Tantra Guru, but he had lots of siddhis. So before the centenary, I had met him a couple of times, and very loving person. Not eating, only once in a while he would take just a cup of milk or so, but he was wandering from place to place in central India, and he used to come to our Amarkantak ashram. He left his body, I think, in 2012-13. So once it happened that during the centenary programs, I was in one of the center in Raipur and Bilaspur, and he was also invited as a guest during our program. So he participated, he spoke very nicely. And then after program, when we came to our host, our house of our host, and we were sitting like maybe 20 people. I was accompanied by another monk and other yogacharyas from India. And this Balak Bhagwan, the monk, was also present. After lunch, when we were sitting and talking, my sister also had visited who has a son, and now this son is married, but at that time my nephew was 4.5 years old, I think 4.5 years maybe. So the Balak Bhagwan looked at this nephew and he wanted to play because he was also behaving like a child. So he wanted to play, and he asked my nephew to come closer to him, and then he put both his hands on the floor like this, and he said, just you should keep your floors, your palms like this. So my nephew spread his palms on the floor like this, and then he said that I am standing on your hands. So he stood, and he had a very bulky, heavy body. So he stood on these two little palms of my nephew, and he said, can you lift me up? We were all surprised what is happening, but he was just laughing, and he said, just watch. And he told my nephew to lift him up. Surprisingly, my nephew could lift his body up to like 1 feet above the ground. It was very surprising because he had very heavy, bulky body. And then he was laughing, and he said, put me down. After that, he sat down on the sofa. And maybe within few seconds, he told everybody, after lunch, I am feeling very heavy. Can you please lift me up so that I can go out? So four strong people, they wanted to lift him. Forget about lifting his body. They could not move his body even by 1 inch. He became so heavy. So I saw the demonstration of these siddhis, like one can become very light like cotton ball, and one can become very heavy. So he demonstrated, and after that he was laughing like a child. Similarly, I have seen some other people demonstrating the different yogic powers. Even my spiritual mentor, when I was in my early college life, my spiritual mentor also had showed some yogic powers just to tell me that they exist, but not to use them. Once I remember I was with my mentor. I was 19 years old college student, and I was sitting with him. someone came to consult about astrology because he's a spiritual astrologer also. So he looked at the person without looking at any horoscope which was not there, without looking at anything, even the palms. He just looked at the person, closed his eyes, and he predicted a lot of things about that person. It was like shock for the person. And in another incident, I remember, this is the siddhi I'm talking about, that one can know the distant matters or hidden objects. So I have seen a lot of these examples in his life also. So it's not a big deal. But he also cautioned me that these are the obstacles. Even using them is not good idea. So always focus on the highest goal of self-realization. When a yogi attains these 8 powers, these remain permanent, lifelong. But the other powers or spiritual attainments we discussed before, they are impermanent. They come and go. And by God's grace, by Guru's grace, I have also experienced something. My mentor gave me some experience, but they're all impermanent. The highest goal of life as a yogi is to achieve or attain self-realization. We should focus on that, because it's very easy to get distracted, get tempted, and then we lose our path, we lose our enthusiasm, and we again get busy with our extrovert mind. So the whole purpose of discussing this Vibhuti Pada, the 3rd chapter, is to give a caution and also some encouragement. These siddhis, on one hand, they are just encouraging us that yes, we are moving on the right path. So you get it, but don't use them. Ignore them, and then only you can reach the final or ultimate goal of your life. So there are little bit more discussion about these siddhis or yogic attainments, but because this is not important for us, what is more important for us is one of the sutra which we discussed, that do sanyam on the self. Self means the soul. So when we keep our attention in the cranium on top of the head, we are always doing sanyama on our self. Self is vast, attributeless, formless. So when we do sanyama on that, we attain self-realization, which is more important for us. Do not be curious about knowing the past, knowing the future, because future is in our hand. What we do today will become our future. So focus on the present moment, focus on the present effort, and make your life worthwhile, valuable, so that you can finish your goal of life now. So I'm praying to God, praying to all the masters to give us all-round development. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all become happy and healthy, loving, noble and compassionate. May there be no suffering, no sorrow. May there be more love, peace and harmony among us and in this entire creation. Om. Amen. Thank you all. Meditate and be realized. See you next month, and we'll discuss the 4th book, Kaivalya Pada, the ultimate goal.